first thing on the agenda is some proclamations. Mr. Ware? Let's do the proclamations.
It's my pleasure to assist the board president and the board in announcing proclamations for students who have outstanding accomplishments. Tonight we've invited some representatives of the high school wrestling team and their coach Jim Heimer to come to be with us. Before I invite Coach Heimer and his students to come forward, I'll read the opening to the proclamation because the opening statements are the same for each proclamation, and then the statements are customized or tailor-made, if you will, for the individual students and their accomplishments. So the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas many North Penn School District students individually and collectively perform distinguished service to their school in many activities, and whereas the reputation and image of the North Penn School District is built and enhanced by the performance of its students and faculty, and whereas the accomplishments of individual students in academic, artistic, athletic, leadership, literary, and musical endeavors bring positive community interest in school programs, and whereas the future of any community rests in the hands of its responsible youth, and then the student is named, and the individual accomplishment of that student is named. So I'd like to invite Coach Heimer, if you would, to use the podium across the way and introduce those young men that you invited here today. I have a list, if you would like that. You have a list too. Good.
First, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to recognize the accomplishments of these members of your wrestling team. They did quite well with some adversity this year, not only the winter that we all experienced with the postponements of matches, of practices, that affected all the winter sports teams. I think more so with wrestling than some of the other teams because these guys not only have to worry about their conditioning, but maintaining an exact body weight, which some of us have a lot of trouble with. But I think you need to know that they represented you well. Of the 13 varsity members of the wrestling team, we had 11 that were recognized by the league, either honorable mention, first or second team. You're giving proclamations to the first and second team members tonight. The three honorable mention were our 112-pounder 9th grader Brad Delmuto, our 140-pound senior Mitch Grant, and 160-pound junior Ronna Cowie. They're not here. They're the honorable mention, but I thought you needed to know that. The 8 that you are recognizing tonight are our 103-pounder 10th grader Tom Radisoni, who was first team Suburban 1. Tom, you want to come up? Our 119-pounder junior John Woodburn, second team. Our 125-pounder senior Russ Waters, second team. 130-pound junior first team Jason Gibson. Little postseason activity. 135-pound sophomore, first team Mike Gadsby. 145-pound senior Matt Matero. Made it, all right. Matt was our representative at the state tournament in Hershey this year. 171-pound junior first team Brett Rifford. And 189-pound senior first team Kevin McGuigan. Of the 30 members of our team, only 4 were seniors that were 5 were seniors that we were losing, so we have a nice nucleus for next year.
They're so cute.
Again, thank you for recognizing that.
That's nice. He's representing Grandy, the superintendent, was on our
What kind of representing?
I guess, or he was work, I guess he's his lawyer or whatever, they have to have a settlement or something.
Jim, those of us that coach sports teams know what dedication it takes to spend a lot of time with the guys and work with them. And it's a real dedication on the part of all of our coaches and the time they spend with the younger people. I worry about that. Thank you. Okay, we'd like to take a 5-minute recess so that the other board members can congratulate the athletes. Cameras, you ready?
I'm here.
I thought you were high behind Charlie.
I'm short, but not that. You sound good.
How like that? We got a woman operator. That's terrific.
Hey, we really have equal
Resume,
opportunity
please.
here.
I think that's great.
Is there a recommendation for approval of the minutes of the 673rd meeting?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Leahy, second by White. Any question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a recommendation for approval of the minutes for the 674th meeting?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Leahy, second by Whites. Any question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Committee reports. Tom Clements, facilities.
Construction reports. At Bridle Path Elementary School, all the exterior windows have been installed. Exterior brickwork continues with the intent to complete all masonry work by May 6, 1994. Concrete sidewalks are being placed on the east and west Bridle Path Road. Interior painting has begun on the second floor. Ceramic wall and floor tiles being installed on the first floor. Mechanical contractors are progressing at an excellent pace. Site contractor has begun the final grading, and they've begun placement of topsoil. That's for Bridle Path. Moving on to Walton Farm Elementary. 75% of the exterior windows have been installed. All concrete slabs are complete. Masonry work, including brickwork, is progressing at a very aggressive pace, with completion projected for mid-May 1994. Metal studs and sheetrock work is completed in many areas of the building. Underground primary electric service conduits being installed between the building and Allentown Road. Poured curbing and final roadway work is under construction. Topsoil placement and grading is underway. Philadelphia Electric Company has completed the relocation of 7 electrical poles on Allentown Road on Monday, May 2nd, 1994. On Monday, May 2nd, 1994, Allentown roadway reconstruction will begin. Everybody catch that? Misread it a little bit. Okay, I'd like to report on the meeting that I attended along with Art Wood on Monday, April 4th. That meeting was with the representatives from Texas Eastern Pipeline. On Monday, April 4th, 1994, we met on location with representatives from Texas Eastern Pipeline. It is their intent to provide the district with final information relating to pipeline replacement and upgrading so that I may share this with the board and the community at the May 19th, 1994 public meeting. So basically what I'm saying here is we met, we had some good discussions. They gave us the general direction they wanted to take, and they really, for the final replacement of the pipeline, they asked if we could give them a little bit more time to come back with some exact details that we could give a complete report for the next meeting. So, do we have any? I know that was a question on what happened with Texas Eastern, but they just asked us to give them a little bit more time to give a pinpoint description as what they'd be doing. Did you want to add anything?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, Penndale Middle School renovations. On Monday, April 18th, 1994, Mr. Wood and representatives from the architect's office and the site planner's office participated in a Lansdale Borough Planning Commission review. Their meeting was a positive experience. A bidding schedule and tentative construction schedule will be available on Monday, April 25th, 1994. Moving on to discussion on North Penn East High School. The administration and Breslin, Ridyard, Federo representatives continue to develop a tentative room schedule so that preliminary drawings can be produced for board discussion and approval. Notice I said preliminary. It will be necessary to schedule a full board meeting for these discussions and review as we approach this point in the process.
That's great.
And one thing I might add to the report is, I believe a week or two ago, board member Bill Allen had a chance to go around also with Art Wood to just to tour the new facilities, and I'd encourage all the other board members, anyone who want to take a look around, it's a good thing to do if you get the chance.
Tom, real quick, a question came up from the other school districts in Montgomery County about our flat roofs and whether or not we were having any problems with them. And they wanted to know if we would get in touch with them. We're not having.
We have reported regularly at our Delaware Valley School Plant Managers meeting that we have been very pleased and have had a very good track record with our flat roofs and replacement. We have replaced every roof with the exception of the high school. And I have made it abundantly clear it's the type of specification you develop and the type of installation you get that determines the success of re-roofing with single membrane.
That would be one of the considerations for the new high school also, as to whether to go with the pitched or the flat.
Our initial design would indicate on the classroom area that we will have a pitched roof.
Okay, thanks.
Dance intel there.
Excuse me?
Don't leave that out. Don't leave that out.
Thanks, Art. He'll give you a grand tour. You can get up and see the new roofs on the new
No,
element.
thank you. I think they're going into lawsuits about the roofs, so they had asked.
Okay. Bill's not here tonight for community services. Who's his alternate? Any report? Okay. Elementary had Terry.
At the April committee meeting, the board received a preliminary report of the Elementary Science Curriculum Review Committee from Donna Brown, our science supervisor. The report listed the objectives of the program for each grade level, kindergarten through grade 6. A final report is expected prior to the conclusion of the 94-95 school year. End of the report.
Thanks, Terry.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Secondary at Carmen.
Thank you, Dick. At the board committee meeting on April 12th, a discussion was held regarding a proposed change to the date for high school commencement. As a result of that discussion, consensus was reached to change the commencement date from June 23rd to June 21st. On the action agenda this evening, you will see a recommendation to approve the 1994 remedial summer school program. This self-supporting program will continue in the same format as last year. There will be no tuition increase necessary to fulfill the needs of the program. End of report.
Thanks, Carmen. As we understand it, too, that we didn't get penalized from the state by those 2 days.
No,
in terms of
we will be getting our money from the state. It was part of the bill that I had said on Tuesday's meeting, so as long as we covered 990 hours, which our kids go a lot more than that, we were getting our money, so we did not lose $4,000.
That's great. Okay, any questions of Carmen? Okay, thanks, Carmen. Special ed, Vicki.
No report.
Okay. Strategic planning, me. And at the Tuesday meeting, we talked about the beginning of the strategic planning process and how we are involving the process to begin with technology with David Weitz. And we gave a report on that committee and how we're planning to proceed with that. In the next month or two, as we find more time on the agenda, we'll be looking at the overall strategic plan outline for the district and discuss that at that time. That's all I have. Any questions of that? Okay. Support services, David.
I'll be a bit redundant. At last week's committee meeting, a presentation was made outlining the strategic planning process for technology. The board endorsed the process, allowing the administration to begin the selection of members for the 2 committees as defined in the presentation. That's my report.
That was better than mine, so it was more.
I wrote it down.
Finance, Ralph.
Yes, at the April committee meeting, the board heard a presentation from Mr. Ernie Piermani of Berkheimer Associates concerning the board's request for revenue projections of an earned income tax in the North Penn School District. During the presentation, Mr. Piermani presented cash flow projections based on both a 0.5% and a full 1% tax, as it would generate cash for the district. the board will defer further consideration of this until we are well into the budget process. The budget process, next Tuesday, April 26th, will be our first budget meeting. It's scheduled, all budget meetings are scheduled from 7:30 to 10 p.m. There'll be Tuesday, April 26th, Thursday, April 28th, Tuesday, May 3rd, and Thursday, May 5th. At the May 5th meeting, we will schedule any additional meetings that will be necessary to finish our budget process. We plan for preliminary adoption the week following May 5th, sometime during that week, and final adoption will occur in June, as is required by law. In addition, at the April committee meeting, the board heard a presentation on the status of current expenditures for the 89, 90, and 92 bond funds, and we have requested and will get a presentation from a representative of public financial management at some time in the future on those bond funds. That's the end of the report.
Thanks, Ralph. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. When will we as board members receive the budget?
I was hoping to get them out Friday. I expect now to have them out and courier to everybody Monday during the day. Is that correct, Alan? That's correct.
Monday the 25th.
Monday the 25th, yes.
Will we be receiving the budget a day before we're going to be sitting in the...
That's correct.
I'd like to say that this budget process is not
I share your concern.
Well, the process...
really leaving us due time to begin. No, I mean to begin to get a foundation before coming into the meetings,
Understand.
and I think it's extremely unfortunate.
But there's a personnel issue that we will discuss tonight at an executive session that has a direct bearing on the budget. And we need to discuss that first before the budget can be finished in at least preliminary form. So that's why we're not going to have it tomorrow.
Well, even prior to that, quite frankly, in the audit that we received from the auditor, it stated that the board receives the budget prior to March 1st, and we're reaching into a day before public meetings, and I just find it quite a handicap to really be effectively addressing a budget on this time frame. But thank you, Ralph. I'll look forward to seeing it.
Any other questions of finance? Okay, thanks, Ralph. Personnel, Donna?
Yes, Mr. President. I had a fine opportunity tonight to meet with Superintendent Elko, Cabinet members Keffer and Schmidt, and Principal Schickling over at the Englewood Library. We had an opportunity to discuss very grave concerns on the part of a second grade classroom of parents. I look out in the audience and I see some parent leadership here, and Mrs. Kerr and Mr. Graziano, who were there at the meeting. And we had an opportunity to discuss a concern about Board Policy 4152.3 in regards to maternity and child rearing leave. At that meeting, we had an opportunity to come to a satisfactory compromise between administration, the board, and the parents within the parameters that the administration is allowed to extend in this situation. But I need for us to put on notice on the board record, Mrs. Canavan, and also Board Secretary, if you would, inform Mr. Allen that we need a review of this policy in light of some of the very sensible, logical concerns that these parents brought forward, specifically in the area of the return, the semester or the quarterly return of a teacher, and also to the extent that a parent is informed to the clarity and the timeliness of a teacher's, an exchange of teachers between the long-term sub and the contracted classroom teacher. I think what the parents are looking for was something less abrupt, something that will continue the continuity of a very, very fine teacher that we have learned about tonight, a substitute teacher. The good side, or the good news, is that the parents confirmed for us that the administration did a good job in selecting a long-term sub who has more than pleased the constituents in her class, not only the parents but the children, and that they also see good in the teacher that is returning. So that's the upside of the whole thing. Also, the compromise is a fair one, and the children are not going to have an abrupt change. There is going to be some latitude shown, as expressed by Dr. Elko, in a more child compassionate and an easier transfer of the children from the long-term sub to the contracted teacher. So I'd like to thank specifically those two parents in their reasonableness and the sensible arguments they brought forward, and also the board in facilitating a compromise that seemed to make everybody happy. But this policy needs to be looked at. I support that and need that to be delivered to Mr. Allen to add to his work agenda.
Okay,
And a report, Mr. Bowman.
thanks. Any questions of Don? Okay, great. Legislative, Carmen.
Yes, there are two items. I want to bring you up to date what's happening in the state, and we also have a resolution that I would like to read and have us vote upon. Currently, the Senate and the House will be going out because of the elections, but what has happened is a couple of items. One, the Senate Rules Committee met on Wednesday, April 13, to consider a compromise amendment to Senate Bill 974. That is the bill that originally stated that our Social Security payments for the state's portion of our Social Security payments for new employees would be tied into our SB formula. What the Senate has amended is that anyone who has an aid ratio less than 50% and will not be penalized, and the state will continue to provide the 50%. For schools that have an aid ratio greater than 50%, they will have a contribution from the state at their aid ratio. The amendment would initially cost the Commonwealth approximately $700,000. The bill has been passed by the Senate. It was passed 47-1, but there is some question as to whether the House will pass this. Where they're going to get the $700,000 is kind of really leery. They claim it's going to be new money or it's going to be from investment money for the retirement. So we never know with the state. There is a legislative breakfast tomorrow, and Dr. Elko and I will be attending it. And one of the subjects that the Montgomery County State Legislation Committee decided was that we were really going to talk about our mandates once again, and about tax reform, about trying to get some type of tax reform, whether it's in relief for property taxes or something, to really start looking at it, and hopefully they will. But as far as whether a tax reform bill will pass this year, that's very questionable. I had reported before on the House bill. The Senate has a different bill, so we'll be looking at that. And that's pretty much on what's happening at the state. Now, I'd like to read the resolution, and this has to do with the early intervention. The resolution reads, whereas Act...
Page BA 9 for those.
I'm sorry, for BA 9. Whereas Act 212 of 1990 provides for a statewide entitlement program of early intervention services for eligible children who are handicapped, and whereas the law states that the Department of Education is the agency responsible for ensuring the early intervention services are made available to handicapped children above the age of 3, but below the age of admission to first grade, and whereas early intervention services are currently provided through Department of Education contracts with intermediate units and school districts, with funds distributed according to mutually agreed upon written arrangements, and whereas Governor Casey's proposal will limit the state's funding commitment to early intervention by distributing a fixed amount of money for 5% of a district's children regardless of local cost and the actual percent of children entitled to early intervention services, thereby making it likely that local revenue will be needed to fund the program. And whereas Governor Casey's proposed change in funding flow will mean that local school districts and not the state will be responsible for providing the services and carrying out the mandate of Act 212. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of School Directors of the North Penn School District opposes Governor Casey's proposal to alter the funding for early intervention and to place the early intervention program responsibility upon school districts. Be it further resolved that the Board of School Directors of the North Penn School District urges defeat of such a proposal by the members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Second by Whites. Motion by Redcamp. Any questions?
I'd like to ask where this is going to be delivered.
Once the resolution is done, we will be sending a copy of this resolution to all our state legislators, and we will send one to the Department of Education also.
And in fact, tomorrow morning at the legislative breakfast, for those in attendance, we'll hand deliver theirs.
Right.
Very good.
So we are following it through.
Get the point across.
Yes. Any other questions? The President Pro Tem and those kind of folks too.
But, just one comment, and I guess Judy will bear me out. According to the budget, we will get $429,000. The cost of running a program for the first year, and we wouldn't even be able to do a proper job, probably runs about $1 million.
Easy. We're projected for 63 children as of the beginning of March, and we all know where that will be come September. So the money is just not there with the funding from the state to operate this program without local resources.
Judy, they also expect us to be proactive in locating these students,
Yes, we
don't
have to
they?
do, we have to do
And
an
that is
active child
the
find.
outrage, that they expect us to go and seek and find missions trying to locate
And
them.
what's sad is we actually got more per student than some of the other school districts in the county, which makes no sense at all.
Question of either Carmen or Judy, what constitutes a handicapped child?
Well, there's an evaluation that would take place. We work through the child find process. There's a whole list of mandates that I'd have to go through with you step by step for identification purposes, and it's a whole range of exceptionalities.
But think about it, it's 3 to 5-year-olds that aren't normally in our schools, and we're supposed to locate them. That could be very intrusive and a very difficult job.
Where do you have to bus them?
Well,
Highly
normally-
controversial, too.
Normally, the process works where they're referred by a physician who notices that to the particular authorities, but it doesn't always happen. And as a result, a lot of children show up in kindergarten with a disadvantage that had it been caught when they were 3, would have possibly have helped.
Is this part of the Casey or Clinton's plan that the kids show up for school ready to learn?
I don't think it's tied to that so much.
No, it's not.
Just
This
it's
is,
been
this is a way of funding special education, and I will go out on a limb and say that I have always felt that reading Governor Casey's proposals for special education, it's questionable whether or not he wants to keep funding special education through the state, because he has changed the funding for special education in so many ways and tried to put all the burden on the school districts instead of the states,
It's the same
that it sounds
scenario.
like he's trying to just get rid of the responsibility.
It's the same scenario we faced a couple of years ago when the funding changed for special ed.
This is a clear, bald-faced issue where the state is leaving the mandate behind and ducking out on the funding, throw it in the local school district's lap. Clear and simple.
And then come back on the money the
No,
next year.
No misunderstanding.
I guess we have to take a vote.
Any other questions?
No, just a comment. Carmen, I really appreciate the job you're doing on the legislative committee. I've never felt more informed in this area, and I just appreciate your tireless effort in pursuing these things.
Thank you. It's always fun to try to read some of these bills and make sense of them, so.
You mean you actually can make sense of something?
That's questionable, but we try our best.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, resolution carries. I think the next one is the IU, and there's no report for that. ABTS, Ralph, no report. Merck, any report, David?
Yes. Donna Brown, Supervisor of Science, discussed a partnership proposal with Merck Institute for Science Education. This proposal will provide funds to support the science program for the 1994-95 school year. The proposal calls for an expenditure of $215,550. Of that amount, the school district's share will be $71,131. The Merck Institute will contribute $144,419. This item appears on the agenda for action this evening. End of report.
Thanks, David. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Any other committee assignments that have any reports tonight? Great. It's now time for the audience of citizens. Are there any citizens who would like to speak to the board tonight? June?
I have several items to discuss. I'll try to be as brief on each of them as possible. I'm very concerned about giving seniors the 2 days off at the end of the year. I realize it's only 2 days, but at the same time, I think we're sending our students a wrong message. We're telling them that the senior week hijinks they may be participating in after graduation is more important than their school year. And I think it's a very, very bad message to be sending both the senior class and future classes. In line with that, I'm very concerned about next year's calendar. Granted, this winter was one we've never seen before, or at least not in my memory, but at the same time, I think we should have some snow days built in. I'm very concerned that a 181-day school year leaves us with just one extra day if we get even one snow day next year. And I think we should expect at least a couple. It also puts pressure on Dr. Alco, perhaps to hold school on days he might otherwise have preferred to cancel it for snow, because he's aware that we don't have any margin in there for snow days. I'm also concerned that we've taken the 3 Easter days that we needed to use this year, and granted it was not a great way to use them and cost us at least about $24,000 in substitute pay for the teachers who were off those days. But at the same time, by using them as regular school days, we now have no option except to put any snow days at the end of the year. And if we get another bad winter, or if we get hit with the teacher's strike, we're in deep trouble. Regarding Dr. Alco's new TV programs, I did have some questions that Ken Weir has answered on this, but I just want to make sure that I have one thing right, and that is that we will be hiring no additional staff and don't anticipate in the future needing additional staff for these TV programs.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm also wondering why we're so active now on the Lansdale Square movie lots. I realize from time to time in the past the board has purchased some of these lots, but it seems with 2 new elementary schools in the works, a new high school planned, I mean, just how many schools are we planning to need land for?
That's been an ongoing project, an attempt to consolidate and trade parcels. It just happens that we struck a deal to do, 174 odd units this time, and that's why it seems to be in the news, because it was a large parcel that was traded to provide us with a contiguous square of land. Because we've already owned them, there was really no money transfer for the most part, just a matter of trading those 2 large parcels or pieces of those into one parcel.
I realize that, but at the same time, there's some other activity on here, a few small lots we're buying and some activity on some paper streets, and I realize the school board can't engage in real estate speculation, that's illegal. And I'm just wondering, you know, what school are we planning to build down the road that we just keep buying these lots for?
I think the board is using the same foresight that previous boards used when they acquired the Supplee Road site, which is now a school, and the Bridle Path site. They sat dormant for many, many years. We can't predict whether a school would be needed 15 or 20 years down the road, but the foresight of those previous boards has served this community very well as school sites, and I think the board is using the same motivation this time in acquiring those lots, and as Mr. Bowman said, at relatively no cost to the taxpayers.
Well, I just hope, Dr. Alker, that it is at least 15 or 20 years down the road. I don't think we can handle any more building at this time.
Time will tell.
I share Mrs. Scher's concern about the budget timing. The last couple years, it seems our budgets are coming to the board and the public later and later each year, and it doesn't give anybody much time to react or to really study an $80-some million budget and have time to really do it in any depth before the board has to approve at least a preliminary budget. And I think in fairness to the board, they should have that budget at least by the 1st of April.
We have a whole month to review the budget and continue the process prior to voting on the preliminary budget, and then we have 30 more days before we vote on the final budget. So It's not like you need it for 2 months to study it before you have your first meeting. The fact is, it's going to be constantly changing as a result of input from board members at the budget discussions. And for community members as such.
I realize that, Mr. Bowman, but I do think that there should be a little more time, and particularly time before the first session, so the board or any interested members of the public have time to really look at it. It used to be a 2 or 3 inch thick document. Now what's given out is much smaller, but it still requires a lot of time to study it. The last thing I'd like to mention is our timing on the issue of the before and after school daycare for next year. I have to wonder why we gave bidders only 7 business days to prepare bids when the item will not be brought before the board for vote, at least until the May meeting. I'm just curious why we had to rush in late February and early March to bring bids in, possibly eliminating some interested parties because they couldn't prepare a bid in 7 days or didn't even know that bids had gone out since there was only 1 legal notice when we're putting off the vote on it. I think we could have, if we were not voting till this time, I think we could have given bidders at least 30 days, if not longer.
We had planned to vote on it tonight. However, I pulled it from the agenda because Mr. Allen, who's responsible for that area, cannot be here tonight, had to be out of town. And as a result, we delayed it 1 month. At the time we did the bidding process, we fully expected to vote on it this meeting. We were unable to do that because of the last-minute commitment from Mr. Allen, so we pulled it from the agenda. We'll vote on it next meeting.
I see. Well,
Thank you.
I am concerned with the fact that only 7 days were given for the bids because it's a very vital matter. It affects at least 550 students this year and probably 700 or more next year. And I have to wonder in my own mind how sincere we were in seeking new bidders in the rushed way and rather uninformed way these bids went out. I'm also concerned that when I specifically asked for copies of the bids and did receive them, that I was not informed that the Y had revised their bid because they were not told originally that it would be 700 students last year, and that I did not at least get a telephone call asking me if I wanted their revised bid. I think that would have been common courtesy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Yes, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Barbara Jimenez. My son, Ishmael Jimenez, is a 6th grade student at the Penfield Middle School. He was a 6th grade student at the Pembroke Middle School, and I'm sure you're all aware of the recent investigation into the fact that Mrs. Wells, the 6th grade teacher, and the derogatory and ignorant remarks she made to my son's classmate, Anthony Wuso Koko, a little African boy from Nigeria, who, and I believe my son and I believe the 6 other children who heard Mrs. Wells call this child a rude, ignorant nigger. I'm just very disappointed with the outcome of the investigation. I feel that Mrs. Wells just got a slap on the hand. I believe she should have been suspended during the investigation at least, and she should have made an agreement to attend workshops on stress management, because obviously she's stressed out, even if she did call a child rude and stubborn, which she admits to. She doesn't admit to calling the child a nigger, but she did admit to calling the child rude and stubborn. So that tells me that this teacher has a problem relating to children. And I think that she should attend workshops on stress management and also workshops on ethnic and multicultural differences. It's sad that my son had to change schools because he refused to be in a class where the teacher is a racist. And that's the reason why he's at Penfield right now. I also feel for the child Anthony, a little boy who just lost his mother and who his mother died, and he's staying with guardians whose self-esteem is totally stripped by this act. And I'm sure nothing can be done at this day, but I just wanted to voice my disdain over that. Thank you.
Mr. Bowman, could I just add something here? Because I'm troubled by some of the remarks. I spent a lot of time, along with Mrs. Miller and along with Dr. Venema, looking into the incident. And I very honestly want to tell you that some of the remarks that Mrs. Jimenez made were not correct. And I find it difficult, I guess, that she finds fault with some of the remarks that she can insist that Mrs. Wells made, and yet uses words like ignorant, racist, and those sorts of words herself. I am convinced, I will speak on behalf of Dr. Venema and Mrs. Miller because we've had long discussions about it, that there were some inappropriate remarks made, and Mrs. Wells has been spoken to about them. They do not border anywhere near along the line that was just described right now. And I'm confident that the kinds of decision that we made was a fair one to everybody concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. And the regretful situation here is that a teacher who has really an impeccable record in the school district is labeled now publicly a racist, and I regret that. But in a democratic environment like this, anybody can get up and say what they wish. But it is very regretful. There has been a thorough investigation. The board has been communicated with regarding that investigation. Mrs. Mengel, as the personnel liaison, has been involved, and I also feel confident that Dr. Venema, Mrs. Miller, and Mr. Schmidt have done a very thorough investigation, interviewing the students and spending a great deal of time in this investigation.
Thank you, Dr. Russell. Anyone else who would like to speak?
Good evening. I'm Bill Roman from Upper Gwinnett Township. I have several items to comment on, but I'll be quick about all of them. I want to thank Fred Schmidt and the board for standing firm in their negotiations with the teachers' union. I think the Hay Associates consulting firm that found the teachers were making 21% above comparable jobs in the private sector gave us an idea of where we ought to be in our negotiations with them. The teachers' union has raised private gain to a level that would make Ivan Boesky and Michael Milken blush, I do believe. And it's interesting to note that the Cheltenham teachers are discussing salary givebacks at this time, and it's been reported in the paper. Now, second point. A recent article in the Philadelphia Inquirer by Wendy Greenberg highlights students at North Penn Junior High School in taking Latin because it sharpens their critical thinking skills and is the basis for other languages as well as heavy use in the legal and medical professions. I think that, well, in one case, the son of one of your teachers did say that taking the Latin was going to help him on the SATs. And I do believe that that would be the case. This sounds like a very good program that needs to be expanded. Now, Hartford, Connecticut has been, since 1981, established a classical magnet school, which has been very successful. It's been in a very poor urban area there. It has 320 students in it. It indulges in such things as Latin and so forth. And it does not experience the problems that other urban schools have because of this program that they have. The absenteeism is extremely low, and 90% of their students go off to college, and many of them to schools like Ivy League schools like Brown and Yale. So I think that moving back to Latin, to move back to classical education, can be productive for both the students as well as the taxpayers because books, interesting ideas, are cheap to come by. All it takes is time of the teacher and time of the student, and you can get an awful lot for your money that way. And in addition, it can generate an awful lot for the student. Now, to wrap up comments that I had made at the March 17th board meeting, I did discuss with Chief Kirshner of Taliesin about the nature of the police incidences that I reported to you. You may remember it was a total of 855 over 2 years, 425 in 92 and 430 in 93. The criminal incidences were, and this is by state definition, 164 for the 2 years, or 19.2% of that total. They included assaults, thefts, weapons displayed, vandalism, drugs, and so forth. 19.2%, 164. Motor vehicle accidents constituted 36 of those criminal incidences, and that's 4.2%. So your total was 200 for the 2 years, or 23.4% of total police incidences were criminal. Now, the non-criminal incidences, 655 or 76.6%, included found property, ambulance assists, traffic control, alarm responses after hours, suspicious automobiles, suspicious persons, disturbances in which no one gets hurt, disabled automobiles, motorist assistance such as keys were locked in the car and that sort of stuff. Parking tickets were de minimis there. One thing that the police chief did mention was that juveniles require about 2 to 3 times more of a police officer's time than do adults whenever there is a problem. Because there is probation, there's hearings, there's count with the school officials, counselors, and so forth and so on. So there is a lot of time. Now, the one question that I did raise that I never got an answer to was, is this a precedent? Are there other schools that are also paying a police department for services?
Let me answer that if
Yeah.
I may,
Yeah.
Dr. Alco. Bill, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know of any in the immediate area, and certainly I know of none in Montgomery County. That wouldn't surprise me because there is no school district this size among our immediate neighbors and community. What dictated the relationship, the financial relationship between ourselves and Taliesin was not only their ability to build a case, and you're reading some of that case, back to me, but also our size. So we are rare and unique in a situation where we had to address the pressure and the police stress we put on that specific town because of the size of our high school.
I don't quarrel at all about the morality of the payment.
Sure.
And I really don't.
I think my point is that I think the reason there is nobody that we can really, another school district we can look to and say, here's a comp, is because we're so large.
That's the answer to
Philadelphia School District has uniformed police officers from the Police Department of Philadelphia in a number of their high schools. Whether how it's budgeted, I'm not sure. You may want to call the School District of Philadelphia or the Philadelphia Police Department to find out that they do have them.
Okay. Now, the fourth item, and I'm hurrying through this, I just wanted to caution on that 1994-95 school calendar. Just urge caution in listing the snow days at the end of the calendar. The makeup, when you put them at the end of a calendar, it's an inducement almost to ignore them. And I think that putting them into the months, at any rate, you can postpone and set, and you can at least move up your graduation day if the opportunity presents itself, rather than go through all of this trial and tribulation that you have been going through this year. Anyway, think about it. Now, finally, I wanted to tell you, I picked up my 88-year-old mother-in-law at the high school yesterday, where she saw The Music Man. Now, she had a delightful time, and she thought that the orchestra, the singing, and the acting were first rate. And not only that, I heard very positive things from the other seniors who were there to see the show. And 76 salutes to the director and to the kids that performed. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Any other? Sir?
Cosmo from Tomanson Township. I'll get rid of the good things first. When we had our forum here, we had the opportunity to call all kinds of members of the Taxpayers Association. Donna, they all thank you, and Fred Schmidt. They figure you're the only two that are sticking up for the taxpayer on the negotiations with the teacher. So keep up the good work. And then this one will be for Ken Weir. The Executive Board of the Taxpayers Association would like to present a $250 scholarship to a senior who will receive this prize through an essay contest. This year, we would like to have as our topic, what can I, as a student, do to prevent crime in our school? I think $250 will go a long way for books if they go to school. If they don't go to school, it's their money regardless. It's not something that we're only going to give to some student that's going to go on to school. We hope that he or she will. And we would like to make it an annual thing if we can. We're not going to promise at the present time because our Taxpayers Association is growing and growing. We've got over 1,700 members at the present time, and there's a lot of Gray Panthers that are going to have a little input this time into the election process. That's great. Okay, now, some of the questions I have were already answered, and they're about the budget. The administration makes the budget, and they present it to the school board. Is that correct? Correct.
Yes and no, sir. There are actions that have been taken previously by the Board of School Directors, which the administration has nothing to do with, that impact the budget. For example, money was borrowed to build schools. That's in the budget. Money is allocated to pay for a rider transportation contract. That's in the budget. So there are administrative inputs into the budget, and there are also board decisions that drive the budget as well.
Well, that's what I say. Twofold. The administration is the one that makes up the budget.
The administration takes the information from the board and does make up the preliminary budget and turns it over to the board, yes.
Well, what I'm getting at, I'm pretty sure all the members of the school board here have jobs. And if you have a budget that is millions and millions and millions of dollars, I can't see if you give them 1 month or so to go over that budget, how they can do it if they work. They have to do that on their own time in the evening, and they don't have enough time. I think they should have at least 90 days prior to May 30th or so when the preliminary budget has to be approved or disapproved or whatever. I don't think you're giving them enough time. Okay, how often does the school board, their monies that they receive in taxes and everything, how often is that audited?
Mr. Cosmo, that's audited at the end of every fiscal year.
That's
the fiscal year ends June 30th. The audit will begin sometime in September, and we usually present it at the November, December school board meeting.
Is it the same auditors year after year after year?
When I came here, we had a firm called Dreslin and Company, and then now we have a different firm, Maley Falconero and Company. They were the low bid on a request for proposal I sent out 2 years ago.
Well, I would recommend that you change auditors at least every 4 or 5 years. Well, that way it gives somebody else a chance rather than become a political plum.
Well, what we plan to do, Mr. Cosmo, is the contract was awarded for 3 years. At the end of that 3-year period, another request for proposal will go out, and it will be evaluated by the board.
Because I think you'll have bids, because it sounds to me like a lucrative plum there. Okay, now you also want to have an income tax passed or so. And I see all kinds of figures in the papers, anywhere from $3 million to about $13 million that you'll get coming in. What if, at the present time, what have you got in mind to do with this? Even if it comes out at $8 million, what are you going to do with this $8 million windfall that you're going to get?
Reduce property tax.
You're going to reduce it? You want me to tell you what the taxpayers are talking about? You're going to reduce it for 1 or 2 years, and then you're going to say, we need it for this or that, and you're going to raise it again. And they're going to be behind the 8 ball no matter how you go. Now, if you promise that you're going to lower the tax and not raise that property tax on them, fine, I'm all for it. But not to raise the income tax and then 2 years later come back and say, we can't do it, we gotta either raise property taxes to meet our budget or whatever. You're getting back, in other words, all the people that are living on a fixed income are gonna be further behind than they are right now.
No, that's not true. If there's an earned income tax that reduces the property tax, then even if it increases in 2 years, as you suggest, there'll still be money ahead because that's 2 years of reduced taxes that they haven't had to pay. So, or that they've paid, that increase that they didn't have to pay. As you know, costs go up, and there's a complex issue in terms of the number of people that move into the school district, the new houses that are bought, and how many new taxpayers we have versus how many we lose. And that's all part of this grand scheme and grand process that Mr. Kelly will brief you on Tuesday night about revenues and how they come into the district. So I would suggest that, since you're very interested in this, that you come Tuesday night and hear that presentation.
Well, that's fine, but you've got more people worried than you have for you, I'll tell you right now. Okay, how much does the school at the present time pay for musical instruments?
Those amounts would vary, Mr. Cosmo. That's put out on a bid. We have to look at specifics.
Something like $400,000?
It would only be a guess, sir. There are about 2,500 individual line items in the budget and thousands of purchases. It would be wrong to try to come up with an estimate here tonight for you.
You don't, then you're trying to tell me you don't know how much.
I'm telling you exactly we don't know right now. We're not walking around as walking computers, so we can't pull those numbers out of our head. No, sir.
I know, but you sure can pull them out of your head when it comes to put them in the budget.
We have a number of requests that have come forth regarding musical instruments, but the number $400,000 doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what that refers to. Certainly, we don't come anywhere near that number as far as purchasing that kind of equipment is concerned.
Who gets to use that of these instruments that you do purchase?
The music
Students. Students. Or students, I believe.
You mean students can take lessons there on these instruments and they don't have to pay anything, or what? How does it work?
Those students that Mr. Roman referred to that played in the musical that he raved about yesterday, it's the product of a fine music program. We begin children who sign up, whose parents sign up for lessons as part of the educational program in the early elementary years. It's been an important part of this school district and a part of the history of this school district for years and years and years.
To give just a brief item, my son's in the music program, he's in the middle school, and we happen to have rented and then bought his trumpet, this size instrument. But as a matter of fact, last year, when he played the baritone, which is this size instrument, which isn't considered by the school board reasonable for a person to go out and spend $1,000 for a baritone or whatever the cost is, the school district owns a half a dozen baritones that move around among all of the elementary schools and some of the middle schools, and that's how they get the bigger instruments. But my son owns his own trumpet now and plays in the band, and that's how typically the musical instruments work in our school district.
Well, I can remember when I went to school, if you played an instrument, it was your parents that bought it for you, and they paid for your lessons. It wasn't anybody else.
And we do for the instruments that are individual size, clarinets and trumpets, but not trombones, or the tubas and those kind of things.
That's right.
To Mr. Weir, before we leave tonight on this scholarship, I see two girls here that are here at almost all of your meetings that attend high school. Could we have a talk with them and you about this scholarship, because they could pass it on to their students?
We can do that.
We have a process for that, Mr. Kuzma. We can definitely notify the students of the,
okay.
You call it scholarship award or whatever you plan to do it.
The normal process would be that we would work with teachers, department chair, and the staff, and of course then student leaders as well. That would be the normal course. We're happy to talk after the meeting with the student leaders.
By the time it gets to us, it'll be about the midsummer.
No, sir, I assure you.
Graduation will be over.
No, sir, I assure you we'll move faster than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Pam?
Would you like me to begin?
Yes.
My name is Mrs. Coughlin. I'm from Lansdale, and I thank you for listening to my opinion tonight. We have not been happy with Nash Elementary of the North Penn School District of Pennsylvania and have come to realize that other parents also share our concerns. Without parental knowledge or permission, discipline seems to contain an exorbitant amount of talk and psychoanalyzing. Punishment appears not to be commensurate with the crime. What policy, rules, and regulations have been established for student behavior? How is the school board protecting the rights of young minors regarding disruption of their schedule without parental knowledge or consent? Which school board guidelines does the principal have to comply with for fair and equitable treatment of all students regarding matters of acceptable standards of behavior? Discipline does not appear based equally according to actual action. Apparently, qualities displayed determine punishment. Can social, economic, and cultural skills, which would affect the way children articulate and are psychoanalyzed, be used to determine punishment? Apparently, children are labeled as victims, rescuers, allies, so forth, and disciplined accordingly, at times without parental knowledge. It seems that following our personal questions regarding discipline, our family was misrepresented in a negative manner at a Home and School Association meeting. We find this totally unacceptable. We sincerely hope all will refrain from such negative comments in the future and will address the issue of equitable, informative discipline for all children at Nash and the psychology being used in a professional manner. In this way, parents like us who know the importance of keeping the lines of communication open with their children will be able to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would appreciate an answer to my concerns in writing so that I can pass that information on to Dr. Donald Clark in the Department of Education in Harrisburg. Thank you very much.
I think the board should know, Mrs. Carpenter and I have had several conversations on this matter, and I would not discuss them further in public.
Mr. Capper, I haven't spoken with you very often.
I'm sorry?
Never mind. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the board tonight? If not, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Page BA2, please. Item 5A. I recommend approval of the waiver of tuition status for students whose names are on file in the Office of Special Education and Student Services in accordance with Board Policy 5118.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mangle, second by Whites. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item B, I recommend the approval of the proposed calendar for the 94-95 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Chair?
Yep.
I couldn't hear.
Whites and Leahy.
Leahy, second by Leahy. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you very much.
How many nays?
Two nays.
Motion carried.
Item C, I recommend approval for an additional TMR student to be enrolled in the special education work-study program and employed by the North Penn School District for the 93-94 school year.
So moved.
Moved by Mangle, second by Kukowski. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item D, I recommend approval to submit a proposal to the Merck Institute for Science Education to fund the 1994-95 science activities in grades K through 8.
So moved.
Moved by White, second by Kukowski. Any question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item E, I recommend approval of payment of $1,000 to Dr. Vern Cahill, Assistant Principal, for earning her doctorate in accordance with Act 93 agreement with the Board of School Directors.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mangle, second by Kukowski. Any question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item F, I recommend approval for the 94 summer school remedial program.
So
Dr.
moved.
Elko, I'd like to just make a quick clarification regarding the tuition rates reported on the green sheet. The third column indicated single session rates for residents of $125, non-residents of $200. and double session rates, $250 for residents and $400 for non-residents. That wasn't quite clear on
Then I make that recommendation with Dr. Venom's amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Leahy, second by White.
Question.
Question?
Yes, Mr. Brown. Don, is this increase for non-residents, is this an increase over,
This is, both of
was there any
these
increase for these
numbers-
non-residents since last year?
This past year, it was significantly increased, but for this coming year, we don't feel a need for any increase in either case.
Even to non-residents?
Right.
I mean, I have no problem with us making some money here
We
on
really
non-residential
bumped it up
students.
in 1 year.
We increased it dramatically last year. We
Okay.
feel we can cover the program easily with this tuition rate.
Well, I'm glad we're covering the program, but I don't feel in regards to non-residents that we have to be charitable. No problem making a little money either. So, that's all I have to say.
Well, we charge them enough, then we don't have to increase taxes.
Yeah, there you go. No, we're teasing.
Any other questions?
Yes. What's the percentage of non-resident and resident?
It's probably about 15 to 20 students a year, and we have about 200 students in the program. It varies from year to year, though.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 5G, I recommend approval of a lease with the Borough of North Wales for a portion of the North Wales Elementary School playground for borough recreational programs.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Redcamp, second by Whites. Any questions?
Yeah, since this didn't go through the work session, could you just explain a little bit, is this going to have any ramifications on the playground area that's now being used?
No, none whatsoever. We checked the playground area, and I believe Art and Ken and Charlie checked that, and there is absolutely no problem with our playgrounds.
Where they've
Over by
been
the tennis
traditionally
courts,
used?
way-
Over by the old
way
tennis
out
courts,
Okay,
right in the
well, I
back.
just don't
Towards
want parents
Prospect.
coming back saying we gave away some of their facilities.
No,
It's trying to upgrade the tennis court, so Mrs. Mingle will
I-
have a personal center.
Smile for the camera, Bowman. Oh, my God.
that was one of our first concerns, Mrs. Sharon. We looked into that.
Lacrosse field, we'd have a real problem. A tennis court, I don't play tennis.
That one's had
Any other questions?
No, I don't play tennis, I play lacrosse.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Would the record show that I have a conflict of interest in North Wales Borough and want it on the record, Mrs. Canavan?
That's an abstention.
Yes, it is.
Proceed.
Item H, I recommend approval to execute the agreement for the exchange of real estate between the North Penn School District and Grace Y. Brunick, C. Everett, Inc., Curtis Building Company, Inc., Edgewood Building Company, Inc., Grace Building Company, Inc., referred to thereafter as Brunick.
So moved.
Moved by Redcamp, second by Whites.
Question.
Any question?
Do we care what they do with their portion of it? I mean, if we do have future plans for a school there,
Yeah.
would we care what they do with their side?
Do we have the nuclear waste?
Whatever they would do with
Do
the
we
site
need
would
two
have to go
hours?
before zoning.
Thank you.
And we would grieve from there. Sure.
It's out of our hands once they have it.
But as a contiguous neighbor, we would be invited to a zoning hearing.
Yeah.
Well, it's the responsibility of the township to make sure that they put something that's not going to be harmful. So it's the township's responsibility. It is not our responsibility.
We're gonna put North Penn North High School.
Yes, see north.
Just a question.
Depends how it is on the print.
Is there any other questions?
Because if
on
they have
that?
tennis courts.
I think it is Brian.
I stand corrected, Brynick.
Sounds good to me. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item I recommend approval to engage North Penn Abstract to provide title insurance for 175 lots, the amount of $516.25, and to conduct a title search of 175 lots at $25 per lot for a total of $4,375.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by White, second by Leahy.
A question, did North Penn Abstract bid this, or how do we pick them?
That's
Yes,
my
Mr.
question.
Excuse me, Mr. Dager did receive quotes and handled this, and we had in the past used another abstract company, but this company now is the low court too. So that's what we.
Against two other bidders, maybe, were there three, or
I
do you know how
can't
many
tell you how
offhand?
many, but
Okay.
he did research that. And
Okay.
we all agreed that at $25 per lot for title search, that's quite reasonable.
Terry, did you say?
That was my question.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 5J, I recommend approval of the authorization of Mr. Charles Potash Esquire to obtain court approval for the exchange of certain described school district lots from Brynick? Is that the name? Okay. All of which are outlined in the agreement of exchange.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by White, second by Leahy. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Page BA3, please. I recommend approval to authorize Misters Dager and McCarron to proceed with identifying all other lot owners in the Lansdale Square subdivision so that they may be contacted for the purpose of obtaining agreements that would relinquish their private interest, if any, in certain paper streets.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ray Camp, second by Leahy.
A question. What is the payment arrangement we have in this deal with Messrs. Dager and McCown?
It's based on an hourly rate, billable monthly, since there is no way of determining prior the time involved when you
Okay.
do this type of search.
Okay, I don't need it verbally now, but if it could be provided to me later, I'd like to see what their hourly rate is. And just some idea what their billable hours have been.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 5L, I recommend approval to authorize Charles Potash Esquire to proceed with the action to quiet title on 3 lots which are presently under purchase agreement with Sylvia Weniker.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Frankel, second by Ray Camp. Any questions?
35 years.
All those in favor?
Aye. Put this whole thing together.
Motion carries.
Item M, I recommend the execution of an agreement of sale with Mary E. Smith for the purchase of 2 movie lots at Lansdale Square in the amount of $800 for a total of $1,600.
So moved.
Moved by White. Second by Red Camp. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item N, I recommend approval of transportation service contract for the 93-94 school year.
So moved.
Moved by White, second by Lingle.
Kukowski.
Sorry. Any question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item O, I recommend acceptance of the gifts to the district from the North Penn Korean Association videotapes, from the Inglewood Home and School Association overhead projectors, from Mr. and Mrs. William Brown Culp computer and equipment, and from the Oak Park Home and School Association landscaping.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Shear, second by White. Any question? I have a question. On the videotapes, we're going to rotate those throughout the school district?
The librarians and teachers will be made available, or will be communicated with regarding the fact that these exist at the high school library, and they can just contact the high
They'll
school.
be resident in high school. Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item P, I recommend awarding the bids as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Redcamp, second by Clemens. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, at the bottom of page BA3, item 5Q1A, I recommend nomination of the professional employees as listed on pages BA3 and BA4.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Redcamp, second by Leahy. All those, any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Page BA4, I recommend the nomination of the support staff as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Redcamp, second by Leahy.
It was a tie.
It's a tie.
Tie, okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
We have co-seconds. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Page BA5, I recommend the board approve the retirements as listed.
So moved.
By Leahy, second by White. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I recommend the board approve the resignations of the professional and support staff as listed on pages BA5 and BA6.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Leahy, second by Whites. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed?
Page BA6, I recommend the salary change as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by White, second by Mangle. All those, any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 5, I recommend the leave of absence as listed.
So moved.
Moved by Redcamp, second by Bukowski. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 6, I recommend approval of the additions to the 93-94 professional and support staff substitute list.
So moved.
Moved by Mangle, second by Bukowski. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Item R, Item 7, I recommend approval of the additions, changes, and deletions to the extra duty assignments for the 93-94 school year.
So moved.
Moved by Mangle, second by Redcamp. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I was just thinking of travel, that's all. Item R, I recommend the student travel as listed on pages BA6 and BA7.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Leahy, second by Redcamp. Any questions?
What's Physics Day?
I'm sorry?
What's Physics Day? Like
Physics
science
Day
fair?
is a program for students to practice applied physics concepts. It's for several high schools that participate, both in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Good program.
Good.
Don, just a request for information on 3 here. The number to be determined, students going to, I guess, a Special Olympics. I'd like to know how many, when you have it.
I don't have the number right now. That will be based on how they do in the Special Olympics program. We'll have the final number.
Oh, neat.
Regionals first, though.
That's a neat thing. I'd like to know more about it than just to see little blurbs here.
Just a note to the board, I am getting something out to you. We are having Special Olympics in the district next week. I believe it's either Wednesday or Thursday. 26th.
Tomorrow. No.
26th.
No, Art.
No, Art.
No, it's on a weekday.
Next week.
Next week.
He's like,
You don't have to wash your gym socks till next week.
I think we're going to give you a vacation day tomorrow.
Yeah, the weekend to cut the
No, he's going to be a hugger next week.
Don, when's the physics classes going? It says today and they close it.
Which one?
Tuesday.
Just a second. 29th of April.
One school day?
One day. Yeah, one school day.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Under information, a vandalism report is attached, and since Judy preempted it, I wanted to extend an invitation to the board and the community to attend the Special Olympics at North Penn High School next Tuesday, the 26th of April, beginning about 9 a.m. You will see our National Honor Society students from the high school working with many of the Special Olympians. It is a community service activity sponsored by our student body, and Special Olympians from all over the county come. It is a wonderful day. The rain date, if it is raining on Tuesday, will be Thursday, April 28th. That concludes my report, Mr. Bowman.
Thank you, Dr. Rocco. Moving on to other business, I recommend appointment of John I. Weirman to the North Penn School District Authority for a term that expires December 31st, 1996.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mangle, second by Redcamp.
Wireman.
Tie with Leahy. Is there any questions?
No question, just a comment that this, another volunteer of fine repute, and
Used to be on the school board.
appreciate his willing to come back and work on another project here at the school district, but it would be nice if we could have maybe a resume or a bio follow-up. Oh, I didn't get one. I didn't get it.
He used to be on our school board, too.
Well, then I would like one. If I missed it, I'm sorry, but I would like one again.
Served on the intermediate.
And you?
Served on the intermediate.
All those in favor?
Interim.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report, Mr. Kelly.
We had cash receipts for the month of $1,734,062.99. Receipts year-to-date, $79,219,054.40. Disbursements for the month, $11,255,468.46. Disbursements year-to-date, $63,782,542.49. We have term investments in the amount of $3 million and temporary investments in the amount of $15,089,000.
Thanks, Dennis. Any questions of Mr. Kelly? Okay. Budget transfers.
Mr. Bowman, I recommend approval of the above budget transfers in the amount of $11,075.
So moved.
Moved by Redcamp, second by Kukowski. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. General fund?
Yes, I recommend approval of the disbursements for the month of March in the amount of $12,091,467.68, and our disbursements for the month of April in the amount of $421,340.94.
So moved.
Moved by Redcamp,
Second.
second by Leahy. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Food service report, Mr. Hartenstein.
Well, during the month of March, the Food Services Department had an income of $328,894.06. After deducting raw food costs and total operating costs, we ended the month with a loss of $1,128.76, which leaves a deficit year-to-date of $18,336.14. But I am cautiously optimistic we'll finish the year in the black. We are still making up 4 snow days. Those days will begin to pay dividends over the next 2 months. So.
Need more pizza days.
And more snow cones.
More pizza days.
More snow.
Any questions of Mr. Hartenstein? Great, thank you, Bill. Federal programs, Charlie, anything to report?
No report.
No report.
No, wrong one.
Wrong Charlie. My turn. Now, solicitor's report.
No report. My turn. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much. There'll be an executive session after the meeting to discuss personnel matters.
I'll call you.